Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today I'm going to be showing you guys the 12 books I read this January and tell you whether or not they were worth it. I've not read 12 books in 1 month, maybe ever. I don't think I ever have. And I used to be a really big reader when I was in middle school and high school. But then when I went to college, I just got so busy with life and college and school that I just didn't read anymore. I just spent my free time watching TV. But this last month has been my best reading month ever. Like literally, it was so good. I had multiple 5-star reads, multiple 4-star reads, just so many good books. And it was just such a good reading month. I feel so excited. And I still have so many books to read that are on my shelf, that are on my TBR, and let's just get into it. Also, if you notice, these two shelves are empty. That's where all the books I read in January came from, so that's why they're empty. Let's get into it. The first book I read in January was The Love Hypothesis. I mostly listened to the audiobook of this book, but I read like the last third of it or something like that. I gave this book a 4 stars. I really loved it. You can see my full thoughts in my past reading vlog that I just posted a few days ago, but I thought it was a really great romance. This is my first Ali Hazelwood book actually, and I thought it was great. It's definitely not closed door. If you don't know what closed door is, it's basically romance books or just books that it either fades to black or it doesn't have explicit scenes with lots of spice, if you know what I mean. I prefer closed door. This is not closed door, but it's very easy to just skip over those parts if that's kind of something that you prefer. Or if you don't, this is a great book. I really loved it. The romance was really great. The development of the characters was great. It's about a 3rd-year PhD candidate, Olive, and one of the professors there, he's a professor in another PhD, whatever, named Adam, and it's kind of like a fake dating trope, kind of a bunch of things that happen. There's some kind of intense things that go on throughout this book, and I really pretty much binged this book. I really loved it. I gave it 4 stars. The second book I read in January was The Stolen Heir. I really loved this book. I started this I think in November, and that was before I was really into reading again. So I read like half of this book in like November, and then end of December I picked it back up again and I kind of just restarted. I like looked up plot summaries for the beginning and kind of restarted the book, and it got so much better. I love the Cruel Prince trilogy. This is in the same world as the Cruel Prince, and I just love this world. I love the characters. The plot towards the middle kind of got confusing to me and felt kind of pointless. Which is why it's not 5 stars, but I gave this a 4 stars because I still really loved it. And the second book comes out in March, I believe, and I'm super excited to read the second book. This is a duology, a new duology in the world of Elfhame, which I just love, you know? The third book I read in the month of January was Better Than the Movies. No words other than perfection. 5 stars. This is my first Lynn Painter book, and now I have like 4 other Lynn Painter books. Now I have 2 more. I have 2 more to read. I have The Do-Over and Betting on You, which hopefully I'm gonna read soon. I literally read this in like a day. It's the perfect high school sweetheart, amazing, lighthearted book ever. It is a young adult romance. It talks a little bit about death and grief throughout the book, but it's not like the main topic of it. It kind of just adds more depth to the story, which I really loved. The main guy character and the main male character is a sweetheart, which I love in a main male character. So definitely go read this book. It was one of my favorites so far this year. The fourth book I read was How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. This is in the same realm as The Cruel Prince. It's pretty much just an illustrated short story book about stories told from Cardan's perspective, who is the main character from the Cruel Prince trilogy. So I really liked this. I gave this like a 4.25 or 4.5, I think, because I really did love this. I love the illustrations. It was a super short read and just a super fun addition to the world of Elfhame. The fifth book I read was Check and Mate. I was really just on like a romance binge at the beginning of this month. I felt like I read 3 romance books, which I've never read romance before, so this is all new to me actually, which is kind of crazy. But I read Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is her young adult debut novel. I loved this book. 4.5 stars. I really liked it, and now I'm super into chess after reading this. I like have been doing research and playing chess online, and I want to go play with my husband and like just play a bunch because it is is so good. I really, really loved it. It definitely has some more mature topics. So if you are a younger young adult, I would definitely not recommend this. But if you are older, if you're like 16 and up, that's what I would say to read this book. I loved it so much. Ugh, I really loved it. The main male character, you can just tell he's obsessed with her. It's just so good. I really, really like this book. 4.5 stars. Okay, so here's where we get into the meat and potatoes of January. I actually have a whole reading vlog reading these next 6 books, which I'm going to be posting the next couple of weeks. I have read the series Caraval 2 times. Now I have read it 3 times because I have not read Once Upon a Broken Heart yet, which is the next trilogy in the same world as Caraval. I forget what happens in books all the time. Even if they are like 5-star books, I still forget what happens. So I love to reread books. I reread the Caraval trilogy, read Caraval, Legendary, and Finale, and I was in an obsession, a reading coma for like 4 days reading these books. Finale is my absolute favorite of the 3. This is a total 5 stars. This is like a 4.5 probably, and this is like a 3.5. Still super good. Caraval is very, very good. It's just not my favorite. This book is about Scarlett Dragna, and she gets invited to this event called Caraval, and it's basically like a carnival, I guess you could say. You don't know anything that's real, you don't know what's going on, and kind of everything is revealed at the end of this book, and this book is a whirlwind. You don't know what's going on, you're confused the whole time, but like so intrigued. There's like a romance interest, and it's just very interesting to find out what happens. So this book is very, very good. You kind of get sucked into the world. And then with Legendary, you are taken into Scarlett's sister Tella's perspective, and I love Tella. I love Tella, and that's all. I love her and her love interest, and that's all I have to say. Also, Jax gets introduced in this book, who is the Prince of Hearts, and he is the main character of Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is the next trilogy I'm going to be talking about. This book is super, super good. I really loved it. Another kind of like just sucks you in, and you just want to find out everything that happens. And then everything wraps up in Finale, which is the 3rd book in the Caraval trilogy, and the ending is just my favorite thing in the entire world. I am just obsessed with this book. I could not sleep for days because I just couldn't stop thinking about these characters, and the plot and the romance and everything that happens is just so good. And also, this is a young adult trilogy, so it is closed door, which is amazing, but the tension in the banter is unmatched. It's unmatched. Once I finished reading Caraval, which the whole point of reading Caraval was so that way I could read Once Upon a Broken Heart. I finally got to this series, and boy, oh boy, I cannot believe I have not read this yet. Literally, I cannot believe I haven't read this yet. This book was a 5 stars for me. This is amazing. This is about the Prince of Hearts and a new main female character named Evangeline. She is basically the beginning of the book is trying to stop the wedding of the love of her life. And so she makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts. His name is Jax. And it kind of just goes on their adventure and like the deal she made with him, and they become closer, and then they break apart, and then they get closer again, and it's just very, very good. 5 stars. And the series continues with The Ballad of Never After, which is the 2nd book in the trilogy. This was also a 5 stars for me. The ending is so good, heartbreaking. I am so glad actually that I didn't read this book before the final book in the trilogy came out, because I would have died if I couldn't immediately move on to the next book. So good. The tension is so good, and it's just so good. So once I finished that, I literally read A Curse for True Love, which is the 3rd book in the trilogy, in one day. I just sat down and read it last Friday, so like 5 days ago. And this is also 5 stars for me. I know that some people didn't like the ending of A Curse for True Love, but personally, I loved it. Obviously, I wish we could get more of the romance and more of the main characters. Like, that's how I always feel when it comes to romance books or any sort of fantasy thing with romance subplot. I always wish that I could get more of the main characters in love. I think the ending was really perfect. I really liked the plot throughout, the tension of what was happening with all the characters and the high stakes that was going on. I just really, really loved it. And one thing about this world that I just really love, and one thing about Stephanie Garber that I just love, is it's just so magical and whimsical. Like, there's little mushrooms. The magic system is super, super easy to understand. So if you're new to fantasy, I would highly recommend Caraval in this series. Definitely start with Caraval is my recommendation though, because these books will have so much more meaning to them if you read Caraval first. You have to read Caraval first, okay? I know some people say you can read this by itself, but I completely disagree. Like, you need the backstory. I'm so sorry, because these books come right after Caraval ends. These are my babies. These are the loves of my life, and I have UK special edition covers coming in the mail any day now, so I'm very excited to go annotate those. Okay, so these were the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever books that I read. The last book that I read this month was also kind of just like a short little read. I have Percy Jackson and the Chalice of the Gods, which is just a short little 250-page book about Percy Jackson, and it's a continuation of after the Heroes of Olympus series, which is one of my favorite series ever. I love Percy Jackson. I've been watching the show on Disney Plus, and it's so good. So I got this book a little while ago, and I just decided to read it. It's pretty much about Percy and Annabeth and Grover, and Percy's trying to get into college. It's good. Definitely good. I gave this a 3 stars just because it wasn't anything crazy. It was good. It was good, and I recommend it. Okay, so those were all the books that I read this month. I am going to show you guys my TBR for February because we're in for a treat. I have a lot of really exciting books to get to, and I'm gonna go show you now. One of my upcoming videos is going to be reading mystery books per week, so I have 5 options, and I might try to just read all of them because they're all relatively short, except for 5 Survive. But we have 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This is apparently set within 1 day. Oh, 8 hours. It's like 8 hours and someone dies. I don't really know much other than that I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is also by this author. We'll see. This is one of the options. I also definitely want to read The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This is on my TBR this month. I have The Housemaid, which is another very popular mystery thriller book I'm excited to get to. A Flicker in the Dark. This is also another very popular mystery book that I've just been very compelled to read. I'm not super into horror, so from what I know, these books aren't horror. They're more thriller / mystery. So we'll see if I have bad feelings after reading these books. But the last one is The Guest List. This is just another option to read. I don't know which one specifically I'm going to read in what order, but you'll find out in my future video. Also, if I have time this month, which I definitely think I will because I tend to fly through and binge mystery books because you just can't wait to find out what happens. If I get through those, I'm going to be starting Throne of Glass, which is, you know, gonna be a future video as well. But I have the first 3 books, The Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight. I know it is very controversial as to what reading order you should do, but one of my best friends, she's read this series 3 times. She recommended that I read The Assassin's Blade first, even though I know that's not what Sarah J. Maas says, okay? I know. I'm gonna be reading The Assassin's Blade first, so I'm gonna read The Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight. So that is my TBR for next month, which I feel like is ambitious, but it's really not that bad, especially compared to what I did in January, so yay. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you got to the end of the video, comment a mushroom in the comments, so that way I know you made it to the end, because you're a real one. And I love you, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye!